So, I have a story I'd like to tell, and I want to try to give it from different perspectives, of the interactions, that happened, and the different perspectives of the people that had the interaction. So, you start with a woman alone in her car sitting in a parking lot, and as she's sitting there, four adult men, they come up to the car window. And as she turns and looks out the window, she can see that they're carrying guns, and they're standing there. They ask her what she's doing, and she doesn't want to roll the window down, and they start getting aggressive and say, what are you doing? And then, order her out of the car. Their hands are on the guns, and so she gets out. She's scared and doesn't really know what's going on. And then as she gets out, there's like the one that's talking, and he grabs her and turns her around, shoves her up against the wall, and tells her, "Spread your legs for me. Spread your legs for me now." And she doesn't want to do it, and so she's hesitating. She's just standing there, frozen. And he gets more aggressive and more aggressive, and so she starts to spread her legs, and then as she does so, he puts his hands down and starts running it up her leg, and as he gets closer to her pussy, she starts to struggle. And so the other three that had been watching him do that, jumped up and grabbed her, and as she's struggling, they restrain her, they tie her wrists up to stop her struggling and hold her down, and then physically spread her legs apart. And the other one, goes back to touching her and feeling her vagina and rubbing his hands on her, and she, she's still struggling, and they're telling her, just stop struggling, you're making this harder on yourself, and she's just, it's gonna happen, she better just stop struggling, and so when he's done with her, they decide that they're gonna take her with them. So one of them goes back to their car, and they get a big long thing of rope, and they come back and they tie her up completely, with rope. So now she's bound with rope, and her wrists are tied behind her, and she's lying on her face, on the ground, and they pick her up and take her to the car. And in the car, on the floorboards in the back, are these U-bolts that are welded in to the floor. I mean, these people do this all the time. They, so much that they've prepared their vehicle to take her, and they literally take this tied up woman and tie her to the floor of the car and take her away. So they end up driving to this place, it's kind of, it's secluded, and it's there's just really nobody around, and there's a big fence around the building, and she doesn't know where she's at, and they go into this interest in the back and pull into like a garage, and these other people come out and open the door, and she's laying there tied up on the floor, and they proceed to take her out of the car, and she starts struggling again, and it's 3 men and 2 women, and it's the same thing. Stop struggling. They take her into this tiny little room. It's just a bare concrete floor, and put her down face down, and start taking off her clothes. And as she's struggling and fighting them, removing her clothes, and the men that are there, they sit on her with their full weight. They sit on her, and the one turns and grabs her tied up wrists, and then like twists them up until she screams and stops struggling. And then it's saying, I won't have to do this if you stop struggling, and proceeds to do this as the women strip her, take off all her clothes, and she's still tied, and this man's still they're all sitting on her, and every time she fights at all or moves at all, he bends her wrist up until she screams. And so the women take off all of her clothes and proceed to violate her. They touch her, and they penetrate her with their fingers, and they just keep assaulting her sexually, and she struggles, and he twists her wrist, and she screams, and this goes on and on and on until the woman just got so tired she passed out. She she just passed out. She's exhausted, and that's then that's what made they finally stop. They finally stop hurting her, and so they get up off of her, and they proceed to walk out and leave her on the concrete floor, passed out, unable to move. And as they walk out, they're laughing about the whole thing, and at her and mocking her, like, why do they fight us? We're gonna do this, and it's gonna happen. This is how it goes. Why do they bother fighting? And this is the conversation as they laugh, as they walk out and leave her on that floor. And so you hear the story, and this is the events. This is what happened, and this is exactly how it happened. And it's appalling. You can't imagine, like, you're fighting against your rapists, and they're just, mocking you and blaming you for moving, and how dare you struggle as they're raping you, and she was just sitting in a fucking parking lot. That's it. These men came up to her, and they did all this stuff. And so it's appalling. Like, you tell the story and people are like, fuck, and did they get arrested? Did they get punished? And so here's the twist of the whole fucking thing. It was the police that did it. This was an act done under the guise of being an arrest. So when did that become acceptable? That an arrest includes sexual assault. And they'll tell you they didn't sexually assault that woman. They'll tell you that they didn't kidnap her. They will tell you this. We didn't kidnap her. We did not assault her. They'll tell you that they saw her and recognized her and thought she had a warrant. So they had every right to approach her. And when she didn't want to get out of the car, that was resisting an officer. That's obstruction. That was a crime. When here's this woman and these armed men, and they think she has a warrant. They've decided to stop and talk to her. They want to check her now for weapons. When did this become... When is that acceptable? I'm having a hard time with this, because they will argue this point that was not a sexual assault because I was looking for weapons. Well, I don't care why you fucking tied me up with a rope and fingered me against my will. I don't care why. There's no reason that makes it okay. There's nothing that makes it okay. You decided to check me for weapons. You decided I possibly had a warrant. You decided what? And so you came the fuck over and you pulled me out of my fucking car. And because I was not submitting to you touching me fucking inappropriately, and which doesn't even describe what you guys were doing, because I did not submit to that. I was obstructing an officer, is what they say. But they don't add the part that, what was I obstructing him from? I was obstructing him from sexually assaulting me. So the fact that it took 4 of them to restrain me so he could finish molesting me, I am actually proud of, because I fought that shit. The first few times that they've ever done something like that, I submitted to it, because you don't know what's fucking going on. But the truth is they're fucking assaulting you, and you're getting touched, and they're touching your pussy, and they're touching your tits, and they go, I'm gonna touch your tits now, and they do. And it's like, I didn't fucking tell you that you could ever. Not once did I fucking say yes, and because you announce it, it's all right. And it's under the guise of an arrest, and now we just arrested her. And so when I went to the jail, well, that was just a search of the jail. It was a strip search. So that's not sexual assault. They literally took my clothes off against my fucking will while sitting on me and twisting my wrists up behind me till I screamed every time I fucking moved, to check me for drugs that I didn't have on me, didn't have in me. They were nowhere near me. I wasn't there for drugs. I was there because they thought I had a warrant. Out of another town, in another state. In fact, it was Spokane. And I was in Coeur d'Alene. This was Kootenai. This was Coeur d'Alene City Police. Is who it was. And again, when did this become okay? At what point did these people think you could do that to anybody else? If they were, like, worked in a laundry, or if they were a teacher, or if he was a bus driver, would he be able to see somebody and look at them and go, I don't really like how that person looks. I wonder if they have any weapons on them. Walk up to them and sexually assault them because they, I'm not really touching your pussy. I'm just feeling for a gun. No, you're touching my pussy. There's obviously not a gun there, and had I had a gun in my pussy, was I committing a crime sitting in a parking lot with a gun in my pussy? Like, you know what I mean? It's sounds really fucked up, but seriously, you weren't checking for guns. You're feeling my crotch, and you lifted my tits, and you're checking for weapons. You know, and again, even if I had a weapon on me, what gives you the right to fondle me to find out? You know, have they always felt that? If they had a different job, so that's the part you know, I just assumed forever that they knew, you know, we know we're fucking her up, we know we're touching her crotch, but you know, they just didn't give shit because they're fuckers and they were doing it to make me fucking freak out and feel like crap, you know, and hate myself and hate them and, you know, to just cause trauma. I really, you know, but today I had this epiphany where I realized that these motherfuckers actually don't get that what they're doing to you is sexually assaulting you. Somehow the lie works in their fucking head, and he's like, I'm just checking for weapons, as he's fondling your crotch, you know, and so that was actually even more bothersome to understand that we have how many men and women out there who commit this atrocious crime against other people and don't even understand that they're sexually assaulting somebody as they do it. You know, that's freaking me the fuck out, because how do you fix that? If they can literally believe that any job anywhere at any point, simply a job that they have gives them authority over someone else's body, as long as they tell themselves it's about this or whatever. My point is the reason why you touched me like that doesn't matter. I don't care if it was because you thought I had a gun. I don't fucking care. Why? All I know is you fucked me up by touching me and raping me. I felt raped and violated, and then when I fought against you, your friends joined in. It turned into a gang rape. I was physically restrained by your friends, so you could touch me where I didn't want you to touch me. And so at what point did this become okay in your fucking head? At what point in your life did you decide that you could do that to anybody? You know, you're just a fucking person too. You're a dude in a costume. If you change out the play's costumes and you put him in street clothes, that is an absolute fucking physical assault of rape. But you put him in cop costumes and give him a badge, and all of a sudden it becomes their rights. They have that authority. And what the fuck, you know? Even if you get a job description that says, you know, if you see someone you don't like and you wonder if perhaps they have weapons on them, because you're this person in this job now, you can go over there and shove them down and fucking fondle them if you want and see if they have a gun in their pussy. You know, who would read that and be okay with it? You know, who would be like, okay, so now it's all right for me to assault somebody, you know, or they just fuckbags their whole lives. Were they pushing everybody down in the playgrounds or in high school, and you know, fondling them, checking for weapons, or wonder what was in someone's pocket? You know, I wonder what's in his pocket. So you shove them down and fucking finger them to find out what's in their pocket. You just, you know, they might have something in there, and digging around in their pants. You know, is this what they were like in high school too? And different, you know, when they graduated or whatever. Like, when did this fucking happen? Is it just simply because you became a fucking cop? And that's fucking, you know, if that's the case, like, seriously, go fuck yourself, man. Go fuck yourself. I don't give a shit what your fucking job is. Be a cop, be a border patrol, be a judge. It doesn't fucking matter. Keep your fucking hands out of my pants, you motherfucker. Unless you bought me dinner and I want to go fuck you, keep your fucking hands off me. You know, they never ask you to go with them. You know, talk to you, everything's fine. And then the second they can find the reason, they fucking restrain you in some bondage shit. You know, and you're not willing to be fucking tied up with a rope like that, with my wrists tied up, for doing nothing but trying to stop them from physically fucking sexually assaulting me. And again, you tell that story and you take out the fact they were cops and everybody's shocked. But you say something and it's to the cops, well, what'd you do? What'd you do? They wouldn't have done that if they didn't have to. Well, that's their job. And how? I mean, this is a fucking retarded, you know, thought process. You know, again, you know, it's dumb enough that there are people willing to do that shit and not feel bad about it and think it's okay. It's even fucking worse that other people like me, just normal people, can justify that shit too by instantly assuming I somehow deserve that. Because even if I had committed a crime and had a warrant, you're telling me fuck that bitch. They should be able to stick their fingers in your pussy if they want to. Well, because it's for their safety. My pussy has nothing to do with their safety. You know, I don't have a gun in my pussy, and even if I did, again, they approach me, they start these interactions, they create these instances, and then so again, fuck you if I do have a gun in my pussy. Fuck you. You came over here, and now because you want to check, I have to be raped. And so, it's just this, like I said, it's bad enough that people are willing to do it to you. It's even worse when other people can look at you like you're the fucking problem, like seriously fighting off men who bound me with rope and sexually assaulted me. Fighting against that landed me an obstruction of an officer charge. I took a charge, and I absolutely pled guilty. I absolutely did fight the fucker. You're right, because it felt like a rape. I said that right there to the judge. I felt like I was getting raped as I was fighting back. So if that's obstruction, I said, if that's obstruction in the eyes of the law, then I'm guilty of obstruction. And again, I obstructed rapists. I obstructed an officer who was trying to rape me. Maybe we should say the full sentence instead of just the bits and pieces that make me look like the pile of fucking shit. So, I don't know. I just wanted to put this out there. People, I know other people have had this happen. So it's like the general populace needs to shut their fucking mouths about other people. We're all getting fucked. We're all getting fucked. We're all getting raped, and it's not okay. So, just because you see someone on the side of the road with a fucking cop, or, they have them bound up or whatever, you should be pissed the fuck off that they're doing that to a person. Not just assume the person deserves it or whatever. They're fucking cops. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows the majority of the cops are lying assholes. And about 40%, and this is statistical data, about 40% are pedophiles. So, something needs to change. And that leads me to my next point about the pedophile cops. They protect each other because they wear the same uniform. They're like, well, he's my buddy because he wears my uniform, so I have to defend him. But the thing I look at it as is you should hate them because he wears your uniform. He puts on the same uniform as you and a badge just like you and goes out and uses your credibility to rape children. So I took this example as a fabricated cop named John. John's a good cop. He's one of the nicer ones, He does his little things, but as far as the basis goes, he's a good cop and a nice guy. And there's something happens, he's called to the scene. There's a child there, and John does the right thing. Everything works out well. The child's saved or feels safe, and John's there, and he looks at John as the hero. And this is, we want these stories. We want that to be the case. And so this happens, and John, tells him, the cops aren't so bad and they're there to help him, and they give him the idea that that's the case. So what that does is the next time there's an interaction with this child and a police officer, he has the same feelings that John gave him, the safety feelings and everything else. He remembers the words that John said because he trusts John, and John told him the police are good. But with 40% of them possibly being pedophiles, there's a pretty good chance that he will have an interaction with the fucking perv. And so because John was a good guy and did the right thing, this kid now blindly trusts the perv who's wearing the same fucking uniform and the same fucking badge. And now the kid gets molested and gets hurt, and everything that stems from that shit that we all know is fucked up. He has to deal with this the rest of his life. And it's because John was a good cop, but he didn't tell the truth. If he cared, he would have told the child, it doesn't matter if they're in a uniform. You have to be careful of everybody. Nobody has the right to do anything that hurts you. And, if he had but they promote that image that all cops are good. And the fact is that's not fucking true. It's not fucking true. So if you give a shit about that kid, tell him the truth. Tell him to be careful of everybody. You don't know. Strangers are strangers, regardless of their fucking clothes. So this goes into the big picture is when a cop is shot, And well, he was a good cop. Okay, so we have the two sides. We got the perverts and the good cops, okay? So if a cop is shot, there's a 40% chance he's a perv. So who gives a fuck? Who fucking cares if that perv was fucking shot dead? Because now we have 8 kids that will never be molested because he's now dead. 8 kids that won't have experienced the trauma that motherfucker would have brought to them had he remained alive. So now we have 8 children growing up without the burden and the trauma of the sexual assault, who think differently, who act differently, who do different things, and they go on to do what? They go on to do good things, they go on to do better things. Their lives are different and better and happy, and they bring it back into the world, And so switch the scenario around. The cop that shot is a good cop. John gets shot and dies, But here's the thing. Now there's 5 kids that won't have an interaction with John, that won't start to blindly trust police officers because John, is a good guy, gives them that example, and then lies to them and tells them all cops are good. So John's death means 5 kids won't experience being molested and hurt because they won't trust cops because John's there to tell them that they should. And so here's the argument: what's the cost benefit of this shit? So John is a good guy and he has a family and his wife and his kids. And this is a travesty. But she married a cop. Cops have great death benefits and they certainly support each other. So she's got support. She's got other women. She's got other cops taking care of her. She's got plenty of money, and she's basically taken care of. So she married a cop, and I'm sorry that she lost her husband, but people die, and cops take that chance. So get the fuck over it at that point, because people have gone through way fucking worse by themselves with no support at all. So I'm sorry that it happened, but at the same time, you're sitting pretty good. And John had 2 kids. What about the kids? Fatherless kids. But here's the thing. Here, look at the 8 and 9-year-old girls. So they had a solid 4 or 5 years of a good father. He was a good dad, and they saw a good relationship between their mother and father, so they have a good idea of what appropriate is. They're not going to go out and accept an abuser. They're not going to go out and get fucked up on drugs because they have the security and the safety, and they had a good example set for them. So those first few years are really detrimental, and most kids don't get that. So again, John provided well for his family. They have a great start, and they can continue that. And it sucks. I get it. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm not saying any cop should get shot, but I'm just saying, people die. They do, and it happens. And especially if you marry a cop, this is how it goes. So ultimately, they're sitting pretty fucking good. I'm sorry their dad's gone. I'm sorry the husband's gone. But the truth is they're still sitting pretty good. And 5 children won't have to experience the trauma of being sexually assaulted because John's now dead. And so that's fucked up. It is fucked up. Because when I look at it that way, and that's very, very, very fucking valid and true. I mean, that is true. That any cop getting shot and dying is a benefit. And that is really fucked up. And why is that? Really? Because if you remove the fact that there's the pedophiles, if they would get rid of the fucking pedophiles amongst their own ranks, then that goes away. Then John's death is a tragedy because he would have been there to be great for these kids that needed him, and there would have been no negative repercussions because the pedophiles aren't there to fucking bank on his credibility. So get the fucking pedophiles out of your fucking shit, you fuckers. Because you really think he's your buddy, like, well, he saved my life or whatever fucked up retard. He didn't really. Probably, most likely, he didn't do shit. He just took the credit for it, and he only did it so you'd feel that way about him, so you would let him keep molesting kids. Because if you're a fucking freak who molests children, I highly doubt you're a true blue friend on the other end of it. You're a self-serving pig, and so everything's about you, and that's exactly what it is. So, the good cops who think that the perverts are still, good cops, you need to fuck off with that thinking, because it's wrong. You're causing problems and creating more drama. So it's just like, stop molesting people and thinking it's your job and thinking it's okay, and stop thinking that you have the right to touch other people, and get rid of your fucking pedophiles. Because I have no respect for that shit, and I will never have respect for that shit. I don't give a fuck how many good cops there are. As long as you have pedophiles wearing your uniform and your fucking badge, you're all pieces of shit in my eyes. So, not that you give a fuck, but I just think it's time somebody said the words. That's it. Somebody needs to hear this, say the words, and I'm going to send it to the police too. So, anyways, I'd like to hear what you think about this. Anybody comment on it? I would really appreciate it. This is a big deal to me. I know other people going through this. So, to see, I don't know. Comment. Let me know what you think.